Welcome back, you're with Goa 365. An incident that occurred on the Pata Bridge in Panjim late last night brings to the fore serious questions on road safety.
Mr. Dipendra Shah, a resident of Miramar, who was speeding out of Panjim in his vehicle bearing registration number GA07C 4786, collided into an outstation vehicle bearing registration number KA13M 3452 on the Pata Bridge at around 11 p.m. last night before his vehicle turned turtle.
Coming this way, our way, this fellow, he came from the back and suddenly hit us. He was over speeding the car.
And he was totally drunk.
He was totally drunk. I was driving 40 kilometers per hour. He came totally over speeding. Even I took to the extreme left, but he hit me. He was uncontrollable.
Fortunately, the occupants of both vehicles escaped with minor injuries. Mr. Shah, who was apparently under the influence of alcohol, had purportedly banged into another vehicle a short while earlier and was on the run when he then met with this second accident on the bridge. Mr. Shah was observed refusing treatment by the EMRI ambulance service that rushed to the spot on hearing of the accident.
Agitated villagers of Dawande Marga opposing the mega housing project marched to Marga police station yesterday evening, demanding that action be taken against the persons involved in obstructing the villagers at a public meeting.
It may be recalled that the citizens of Dawande had organized a public meeting on Sunday at Fatorda to oppose the upcoming mega housing projects in their village. The villagers alleged that some elements obstructed the locals from attending the meeting. Sub-Divisional Officer, Deputy Superintendent of Police Umesh Gaonkar assured the villagers that he would conduct an investigation in the matter.
Against whom complaints are received by name, we are going to call them here. I said get them tomorrow and then I will decide. What is the other group this group? As per PI Marga registered, cross offence is registered. So whosoever figured by the name, I have said by any complaint, call them here. I will see what are their issues, why they are at the loggerheads, and why they are picking up the issues against one another. It is my bounden duty because I am to maintain law and order. So I will see if any action is required. Accordingly, I will take action. And regarding offences which are registered, law will take its own course.
Until the 1970s, the coastal zone of Goa was largely pristine. However, the advent of tourism and the resultant construction boom along the coastline has induced large-scale changes in the topography of the coastal areas. It might be interesting to note that more than 59 species of mangroves have been recorded all over the world, out of which 45 species are found in India. 12 of these species find their home in the saline waters of Goa.
The coastal zone of Goa is traversed by 7 rivers, the major ones being the Mandovi and the Zuari, which are lined by dense mangroves, a lot of which is fast disappearing. Goa 365 spoke to mangrove conservationist Saida Wafar of Wetland International, who gave us an insight into the mangrove ecosystem. She informed us that in the recent past, Goa has lost most of its mangrove cover. Goa 365 today highlights the reasons for the depletion of the mangrove cover and how mangroves are important to maintain the ecological balance in nature. Mangroves are highly specialized ecosystems which are characterized by salt-resistant plants growing in intertidal areas along sheltered sea coasts and estuaries in the tropical and subtropical regions of the world. Mangrove conservation expert Saida Wafar throws some more light about mangroves.
Vegetation trees belonging to different families. Some are climbers, some are shrubs, some are big trees, some are medium-sized trees, and some are very tall trees belonging to different families. The whole thing is called as mangrove vegetation. They have got different adaptations because they grow in very extreme conditions, sometimes in the conditions where oxygen is less. That is called as anaerobic condition. So to grow in such conditions where oxygen is less, always there is water, they develop some modifications or adaptation.
According to Saida Wafar, mangroves are among the most productive and biologically complex ecosystems on Earth. Birds roost in their canopy, shellfish attach themselves to the roots, and snakes and crocodiles find it an ideal habitat. Mangroves provide nursery grounds for fish, as well as a food source for monkeys and tree-climbing crabs. Mangroves also provide a wide range of services and benefits to mankind. They are instrumental in providing ecological and livelihood security to the people living in the coastal regions.
They reduce the erosion. They prevent or they reduce the rate of erosion. That is very important in coastal ecosystems. That is one of the very important role mangroves play. Secondly, this vegetation is very important as they act as shelter belt area. They act as shields during the cyclonic time or during this high wind. The energy of wind, the energy of cyclonic currents is reduced with this vegetation, and by the time water enters in these coastal areas, the power, the energy of that flow of that water is reduced very much, thus saving the people, saving the coastal ecosystems of this inland area.
Increasing pressure on natural resources has led to the mangroves being exploited beyond their sustainable potential. Reclamation and exploitation of mangroves for human settlements and agriculture have threatened a number of species and are on the verge of extinction. Saida listed some of the reasons for the degradation of the mangroves.
Industrial areas or industrial cities like Mumbai, Cochin, where lots of industries have come in the areas of mangroves by destroying the mangroves. That is one thing. Secondly, these pollutants, either treated or non-treated, these pollutants, the best place they find to release them in the estuaries, which in turn affects the mangroves, and which in turn, we know it affects the fisheries and human being. Bad tool for the destruction of mangroves. Reclamation is the process where mangroves are cut because thinking that it is the waste area, and in that area something else comes up, either construction, buildings, or very tall buildings, or industries, or sometimes coconut plantation, or like in Kerala and coastal Karnataka, some paddy cultivation and these things. We are facing lots of problems with the destruction of mangroves, though Forest Department of Goa has taken up and very active in the plantation of mangroves, but this type of activities in our mangroves, especially in Goa where we have got limited mangroves, it will have very bad impact on the mangroves.
Goan mangroves have been destroyed and the land reclaimed to such an extent that the mangroves hardly exist along the west coast. This has not only affected the coastline but also the aquatic life to a large extent. Replantation and rejuvenation of mangroves on a large scale is the need of the day if the coastal environment is to be brought back to its pristine glory.
We can protect the mangroves, what we have got at present. We can declare them as a sanctuary, like in Shorao, in our Goa itself. We have got one patch in Shorao. It is about 180 hectares of mangroves. That area is declared as Dr. Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary. And then Forest Department has made the information center there. Species are protected completely. Tourists are taken there, tourists are explained, brochures and other material about mangroves, about the identification of mangroves is explained to the tourists. If this way mangroves are protected, at least few patches of mangroves are given full protection, full conservation, and making people aware about such type of mangroves will be a very important step towards the management and conservation of mangroves. In other